blessings. This is Pesach Sherbo coming in from Sfat, Israel. And Terry's there, Hayes from Tennessee, and we got Troy, and we got Carla and Veronica with us, and hopefully some other people will join soon. This is our weekly meeting, our Noahide meeting. And if you saw by Terry's post, we're discussing, trying to get to understand who God is. First, if we don't understand who he is, why would we do what he wants us to do? And so the last 2 weeks we've been discussing that. And during the last week, I was studying, there's a book called the Tanya. A lot of good it's going to do you. It's in Hebrew, but if you Google it, Tanya, it's plenty of in every language, whatever language anybody wants, it's out there. And it's basically a Hasidic book, an instruction. And I happened to come across chapter 51. I'm sorry about the lighting. I don't know. I guess one of my lights blew up there. I didn't realize it. I'll have to fix it this coming week. I don't have any spares in the house right now. Maybe if I move over like this, it'll be a little better. What does the Tanya tell us to do? It explains to us who God is, who we are, how do we connect to God, in what way, and why we should. And it's a pretty deep book, but it tells us the first thing we have to do is just say, I accept God. I accept the Creator. Once you can say that to yourself and forget everything else you've learned about it since you've come to whatever age you're at, then you can start learning who he truly is, not who people think he is, but who he's shown himself to be. And this chapter 51 starts out with, it says, to return and further to elucidate some of this language. Anyway, I'll make it simple. The expression of what we call Yenuka. Yenuka is the same thing, the same way we call the baby sucking his food. It's called Yenuka, and it means being fed from the mother. It's first we have to explain so you can understand the indwelling of the Shekinah. Now, we haven't talked about that yet, but the Shekinah which rested in the Holy of Holies over the Ark. It is the essence of God. It's not God. It's not completely God. It doesn't have a form, but it is God's connection when he connects himself to the earth over the Ark of the Covenant in the Holy of Holies. That's where the connection to earth is, like the plug-in. Yes, it's there, but it's also, God surrounds us also, but the main power comes just like when you walk through from one room to another in your house, and at certain times of the year, if you touch somebody, there's a little spark that goes. We call it static electricity. Where did it come from? It surrounds you all the time. It's around us right now. But the spark doesn't come except on certain conditions. But it's there and it exists. We don't see it. We can't smell it. We can't taste it. But the power is there all the time. It surrounds us. The minute we touch someone, that little spark, you've done that. Or you touch a piece of metal, it's, oh, you feel that? That is where it's concentrated. That's called Yenuka, when that spark jumps from one thing to another, or indwells into to the next person, or indwells from God to you. So that's what we call Yenuka in Hebrew. It's a simple explanation, but as you get to know things more, you'll realize more from that word. Okay. So now this goes on to say, what is the meaning of that? It rested in the Holy of Holies. Isn't the whole world full of his glory? Surely there is no place that is void of him. The clue to the understanding of this is to be found in this text. From my flesh, I see God. That's from Job 19:26. We know he saw God, right? Job really saw a whole lot of things about God, and learned a whole lot of things about God. But from his flesh, it says, from my flesh I see God. The analogy, when he says from the flesh, what is in the flesh of a human being? The soul. The soul is in the flesh. It goes, the soul fills up all 248 organs in your body. But where does the power come from? From up here in your head, so that when you want to move a toe, automatically a toe moves. That's the connection between the brain and this is the power pack that goes down to each individual organ, and each organ receives what it needs to do what it needs to do in your body. You want to move that step aside, your brain sends the signals to your feet, step left, step right. It's all connected together. Well, that's what God does with us, and he sends us the messages of things he wants to do. But just imagine if you decided you needed to step left and your feet said, wait a minute, I don't think I want to go left. I'm going to go right. That'd be pretty weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've done experience that. It ain't fun.
No, it's not fun, and it's weird. But
when my brain disconnected, I would be thinking about going to the living room, and I'd walk into the wall, and wow. it was crazy. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Don't want to do that anymore. I want, a gym to keep things connected.
Hi, Blaine Clark. Good to see you.
Yes.
By the way, the chat room's open. Anybody wants to put a question or comment or wants to say anything, go through there first, and then we'll get you on, and you can join us. You can say what you want to say. Anyway,
just click the chat bubble down at the bottom of the page, and it'll open up the chat screen for you.
Anyway, the analogy is the soul of a human body, which pervades all the 248 organs from head to foot, but its principal habitation is in your brain. From the brain, it goes out. How does a toe know what to do? Because you tell it to. How does a hand know what to do? Because you tell it to. Now, you might not think about it because it's so automatic, but it works and it listens. So each of your 248 organs receives its vitality and power appropriate to what it needs. The eye for seeing, the ear for hearing, the mouth for speaking, the feet for walking, the brain, the liver to do what it needs to do, the kidneys to do what it needs to do. How does a kidney know what to do? It's being directed by up here, by your brain. We can clearly see that in the brain, one is conscious of everything that is affected in the 248 organs and everything that is experienced by them. Yeah, go stub your toe. How quick is your brain going to know about it? Right? Your brain is totally aware of whatever pain, ache, whatever goes wrong in your body. It gets the message immediately. So when we do something that's not right, through the Shekinah and through our connection to God, he knows we did something not right immediately. It isn't like, oh, I'll just look back at yesterday and see what Pesach did. No need to. But God is connected to every single piece of creation, just like our brain is connected to every single part of our body. And our soul, which is connected, reads and sends the information to all the parts of the body. Essentially, we're talking about the soul. I know people don't like to hear this, but it's called the animal soul. It's the one that makes us work, breathe, walk, talk. We're able to do all those things. Everything that is alive has that type of soul in it that tells it what it's supposed to do and what it is, and it can use it to do whatever it needs to do. Like if I want to drink water or tea, coffee, I need some more coffee anyway, get my mouth working. What just happened? Up here, I send a message to my hand, pick up that glass in front of you and drink. It all comes from here out to the organs, to my hands. Every movement I'm making is being directed by my brain, whether I realize it or not. From here, we're connected to God. God connects to all of us right here. The Shekinah comes in through this spot up here on our head and then goes down to the rest of the body. It flows down. Now, we have the animal connection. What's so important about the Shekinah? What's so important about God's essence being connected? Well, there's a variation in the power and what each organ needs. That variation comes from the soul, but it's not due to the soul's essence and being. It's due to the animal nature of it. It's feeding, getting vitality. But if it came from the essence of God, that means that we would divide God's presence and God's Shekinah, his presence, into 248 different parts. One part for the organ, one part for the liver, one part for eyes and ears and nose and throat. But it's not so. The animal soul is what carries all that to the body to do. But we have, the animal soul has control until one day we wake up and say, wait a minute, there's something more here. There's a connection that I can make that'll pervade my whole body, and we'll take those 248 and put them together as a unit to work for God, to work the way he wants it to work. So instead of being 248 separate parts, it becomes one body controlled by one controlling place. Instead of my mind saying, okay, kidneys, tell the guy to get up and go in the other room and relieve himself. Okay, stomach, tell him he's hungry, so you go get something to eat. What's going to happen is all this stuff's going to happen without me really having to think about it. And it's going to be put into one body so the body works together as a one. I'm Pesach. I'm one. Am I? Pesach has eyes and ears and nose and throat. I have a heart. I have kidneys. I have liver. I have intestines. I have lungs. So in each one has to do its individual part or the body doesn't survive. So if just one of them goes crazy, the whole body has a problem. But can I just say, okay, lungs, I'm going to get rid of you and I'm going to keep going? No, you can't do it. Can I say to my lungs, stop giving me a problem and work right? No, I can't do it. It's part of a whole. Without any one of these parts, basically, we can't survive, especially on the internal organs. So it is, even though you might call it a liver or a kidney, it's still Pesach. When they go and do an operation, take a part out of you and put it in a tray, and say, oh, there's a kidney we had to remove. How do we identify the kidney? Kidney's a kidney. Everybody's got one. But that's Pesach on the tray over there. That's a part of me, part of my completeness sitting over there, not yours or not anybody else's. And I need it to be whole. And when it's in me and I'm whole and I'm connected to God, that same Shekinah that is connected to me is connected to everyone else in the world, which means we're all part of the whole. We're all part of the connection. Okay, this is building up to something. We're going to get there. Each part has its own power. Each part has each part of our body has the 248 parts where they connect together. Now, whoops, forgot, wrong direction. What happens is we have an essence of a body that looks human. It's a material design. It resembles the body. But God doesn't resemble anything. So his essence comes into us and is used by what we are, what we have. The kidney, power for the kidney, power for the heart, power for this, power for that. But it's entirely a single, simple spiritual entity, which is by intrinsic essence, it can be divested of any shape or any category or any dimension of size, space, or time. We can't classify it. Therefore, it is impertinent to say in relation to its core and essence that is located in the brain or the head more than it is in the feet, since its core and essence are not subject to dimensions and categories of physical limitation, but they're contained in its intrinsic. Okay, what I'm trying to say here, what he's trying to say here, is I can't say that God is my feet. I can't say that an individual is God. I can't say that an idol is God, because that idol is no more God than you and me, because we're all tied together. We're all one. His essence, I've used this example before. Power is generated at a power station. And as it comes down to your house, it undergoes contraction, so it's even usable in your house. That's God's essence. He contracts it and contracts it and contracts it down so we can use it in our house, our body. But what happens in your house, you got your plugs, and you guys over there have 110 electricity, we have 220 here. It's just the difference of the contraction we decided to use. But everybody that plugs in a phone, iPhone, or any kind of, you know what I'm talking about, the mobile phones. You plug it in, what you have to do, you have a little converter or something, you stick it in to plug it in, then you put the USB part in, and then you plug it into the phone at the lightning point. What's happening? Why? It's just easier because it'll reach there. There's a transition that happens to the power from the wall to the phone. Again, it's contracted down so the phone won't burn up with the power going into it. A few phones had that problem. I remember a few years back where people would plug them in overnight, and in the morning they come and find a little burned phone because too much power got into the phone. So the same power that is stepped down and is powering the phone. Here, I got mine charging over here. I got my phone here. The same thing that makes this work is making your computer work, my computer work, the screens work, the lights work. It's the same exact power. It's everywhere. But not everything can receive it in the same
dosage. Dosage.
Dosage, that's a good word. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. There has to be a regulation to it. Now, what regulates it is our animal soul regulates it. And then the connection itself regulates it. Now, animals survive and they don't have, they have the connection to the essence of God, the Shekinah, but they don't have the connection they only have it to the animal soul. They don't have it to the spiritual reality. They live and go through their whole lives and survive and everything with that type of, but that's part of God's Shekinah. It's part of it. But there's another way to connect that's around us also, just like that. And it makes things, it helps us learn who God is. Inside this, what we call surrounding power, inside of it, there's 613 kinds of powers and vitalities that can be actualized. And they can come out of just being around us, we can draw from them. We animate the 248 organs with it, and there's another 300 and the 365 veins of the body. And these go into, all this comes together to 613. There's, by the way, in case anyone doesn't know, there's 248 organs and 365 powers and vitalities in your body. That you got veins and you got all this other stuff. You put them all together, it's 613. 365 and 248. That's where the 613 come from, by the way. Why do we have 613? We have capacity to use only the capacity we can deal with. Dual meaning that ties together. Absolutely. That's very good understanding of that, Blaine. That's why we see some people can understand things better than other people. And they have a little, it's power that they're given and they're born with. But anyway, as we draw this, we have 613 kinds of powers and vitalities that have to be brought out of concealment of the soul into the body. What does that mean? They're in your not the animal soul, but the soul, what we call the godly soul part of you. It's already in there. It's waiting for you to use it. Anybody can use it. Anybody, whatever your understanding level is, whoever you are, however you were born, you can use draw from the 613. You can draw power from them for you to use. And it's up to you what you do with it. It's in the godly part of you. And this manifestation is basically in your head, where you make decisions. It can't be in a toe or an arm and a leg. It has to be where you can think things out and make decisions. Then you can take that decision you made and take the appropriate power you need from the body part. You control the animal body and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to walk down the street. We're going to go over to that family's house that needs help. We're going to go help them if they need build a wall, paint the ceiling, go grocery shopping. Now, what are these things called? They're called mitzvot. They're called the commandments of God. And he gave them to us so we can draw from him the power to do these things, and at the same time come closer to him. How do we do this? And we're going to get a little bit more explanation about that in just a second. You know, by the way, we call this stuff, funny thing, Chabad. Chachma Bina Dat. It's all through the faculty of thought. But the sum total of all streams of vitality flowing to the other organs is also contained and is closed in the brain that is in the head. You ever heard the expression brain dead? Someone, God forbid, it should happen to him. It happened to my father. So what happened? The part of the brain that automatically kept the heart beating and the lungs moving and the blood circulating worked. But nothing else could work. Couldn't talk, couldn't think, couldn't hear, couldn't smell. So things got disconnected, and only the basic, it's like, I don't know if you guys use them there, but there's these, you plug into the wall at the socket, there are lights that you plug in. And they're off all the time, except when the power goes off. As soon as the power goes off, they come on. And they give light. So the brain has that also, that security thing that'll keep the body alive automatically. Nobody tells them to do it. But all the power up here will be gone. It's an unfortunate situation to get into, but it can happen. The faculty, let's take a little further, that we can see with our eyes, hear things, speak things, and that happens automatically, more or less. But what happens if we do it the way God wants us to do it? What if we say, okay, the only things I'm going to let rest my eyes on are the things that are to the glory of God and that are good? What did you just do? You put a filter on your eyes so that when something inappropriate comes up, you'll look the other direction. You'll turn away. You won't choose to put something stupid thing on TV. Whatever. By putting that filter on, what has happened is you have created, let me read it from here. The heart receives vitality from brain, hence the brain's has an intrinsic supremacy over the heart. Okay, I'm gonna have to try to explain it in my own words because this is getting a little complicated here. The core essence of Ein Sof, that without end, that's who God is, that without end. We call him Ein Sof, no end, because this power has no end. It doesn't have to be regenerated, it has to come from a battery. The battery doesn't have to be recharged. It's a power source that has no end. If we only had that down here on the earth, think of the electric bills we'd save. Power without end. We wouldn't have to keep paying electric bills, but we get it for free from God for us, for our bodies. A power without end. Every time we use that power that has been given to us, and we use it to do a mitzvah, one of the 613, whether it's a do or a don't, it creates the same thing. It creates, in quotation marks, like oil, purified oil. Now, why the connection between the two? The more that we do and produce, what happens when you give more oil to let's say an oil candle with a wick, and it's got the little float, and the wick is there, and it pulls the oil up. The longer the wick, the brighter the light. It can draw more oil up and give more light. What are you doing with your connection with God? It can be totally dark, nothing going on there. Even though you do nothing, the connection is still there. In other words, if you put a wick in it, floated in a bowl of olive oil or any kind of oil that burns, the potential is there, but nothing's happening. There's no fire. The minute you do one mitzvah, you've lit a light. That light shows that the connection between you and you've produced oil that lights a light that connects to God. Now, I'm using this all, of course, figuratively, you understand, right? This is a figurative thing. It's not a literal thing. We just need to be able to explain it. Every mitzvah you do produces oil for this connection. And the flame gets bigger and bigger. Every one of you sitting here listening to me because you've gotten to a point with the flame and the oil that you produce that you just know, I want more. I want more of that connection. I want to be closer. How do you get closer? Producing more oil and your flame glowing brighter. Now, this is a personal thing. This isn't somebody you can look at somebody and see, or, well, actually, I take it back. Yesterday, I went up to Maron, the Tuva the Rashbi, me and my wife and some friends of ours went up to pray and read Psalms. For those of you who don't know, I'm going on I'll be having an operation on your time, 2 a.m. Monday. If you decide to want to read some Tehillim or some Psalms or something, I appreciate it. Anyway, we walk in, and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people there, pushing and shoving, and everybody praying and reading Psalms and all that kind of stuff. And my friend is standing there, and he just turns around. He felt something from behind. I was too concentrating, looking at it with the 10 guys I was with, and we were really concentrating on doing our afternoon prayers. And he says to me, he says, that guy over there, there's something about him. And he took a picture of the guy just in the way he was dressed, in his robe and the prayer shawl over his head. And today he put it, we have a community WhatsApp group with here at Spot. He says, anybody know who this is? Somebody knew immediately without even seeing the guy's face. He's a rabbi that comes from the USA. He's a very holy man. And I think his name was Kavanitsky, but I'm not sure. He comes every year to pray for 2 weeks around this time, and he spends the whole 2 weeks praying at the graveside of Rabbi Bar Yochai, Shimon Bar Yochai. But you could feel his presence there. Why did I feel his presence there? Why did Chaim feel his presence there? Why did anybody feel that person's presence? Because his light was burning so bright, it was attracting those, and not everybody can see it, by the way. Only those that are aware of something like this can see it and feel it. People have power. They generate power from their bodies. How? By their connection to God. And when you're close to a person like that, you can feel, when you're close to a really righteous person, you know where you are.
Yeah, I've got to experience that one time when I was in the early stages of seeking my conversion. I got to meet a rabbi at the Hungarian shul in Borough Park, and like you're saying, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like when I looked into his eyes, I could see a fire, that was there. I couldn't even touch him to shake his hand. He didn't even speak to me. We just looked at each other. The friend I was with, or the rabbi who was teaching me Hebrew, explained to him that I was, beginning the steps of conversion and stuff, and he just looked at me and just nodded, and I knew exactly what he was. It's weird. I came home and told my wife. I said, I met my first real holy person, because he studies Torah every day.
Yeah,
and that's what he does. It's what he studies Torah every day, and I said I can't explain it. It's just like you said. It's just there's that fire, that oil that's there. And when you see it and you experience it, it's an experience as well.
That's exactly right. See, his level of producing oil, his level of grabbing hold of the essence of God is very high, and he has the ability to do it.
Right.
You can talk to people that ever met Rabbi Schneerson. There can be thousands of people in a room, and he can look around the room, and everybody can say, well, he looked right at me, and I saw the fire in his eyes. That's just how they say it.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I met this rabbi. It was like it wasn't like a physical fire, but there was a fire there.
Yeah.
That you didn't want to. I didn't want to touch him. I mean, does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. It's coming. It's your godly connection, connecting to his godly connection, being drawn to his godly connection. But it's not because he studies Torah all day long. That's part of it. But it's what he does with what he studies. You can know something and know how to build the greatest thing in the world, but if you don't build it, it ain't done.
Right.
So it's what he does with what he studies, and how he allows the godly connection to hook up, and he's totally in control of the animal part of him. If his animal part of him says, come on, let's get out of here and go get something to eat, or it's too hot, let's go someplace where there's a fan, he says, shut up, sit down, and we'll leave when I'm ready to leave. His godly part actually tells his body things like this.
Wow.
We try to teach kids in yeshiva, what's the worst thing that happens? You're studying for 2-3 hours, all of a sudden you realize, wow, I'm hungry, man, I got to get something to eat. And young men, they always want to eat, right? I remember when I was that way. And so they stop studying, get up and go eat. The teachers grab them and say, go sit down again. Oh, but we're hungry. We want to get something to eat. And they're told, you tell your body to shut up and you'll take it to eat when you're ready to take it to eat. It's part of the training that they get. So they have to deal with being hungry, but still doing what God wants to do, with them to do. So back to the oil. How do we produce this oil that keeps this flame flaming? It's not, oh man, I feel so righteous in my heart and I feel so good in my heart. And then you sit down in a chair and wait for something to happen. It's not the way it works. When you get up in the morning and you do your mitzvot, you do what God requires of you each day, that's where the oil comes from. And the more you do what he requires, whether it's do or don't do, the more you do like he wants you to do, the brighter your fire gets. And the brighter your fire gets, the more influence you have on the people around you. Just like this man you were just talking about. When you go to work, when you're eating breakfast with the family, when you're on the bus going to work, however it is, you're influencing people around you, or yes or no. If there's no oil there for the fire to burn, the connection to be there, even a small one, you're not affecting anybody. You're just living like any other animal lives. But if you have the fire there, even if you don't realize it, that part of you inside is talking to the person sitting next to you or across the aisle. Or that person is looking at you and feeling something from you, like, wow, maybe I didn't do things properly today or something. You have no idea the thoughts you generated in them. But every single one of the mitzvahs, the minute you do it, produces some oil. So that fire can burn. And you then are connected directly to the essence of God, either in a small way or a big way. It doesn't make any difference if you're Cohen, a Levite, an Israelite, or the rest 99.8% of the world. Doesn't make any difference. When you do that mitzvah, you're connecting. Believe it or not, whether you believe in God or not, or no matter what God you pray to, the minute you do one of the mitzvot that are in the Torah, your light starts to burn for that, what you just did. For that instant, you were connected to the essence of God. So if you do one mitzvah after another mitzvah after another mitzvah after another mitzvah, you stay connected more and your light burns brighter. People don't start walking that walk of doing one mitzvah after another mitzvah after another mitzvah until they realize that the whole purpose of this light is to make yours shine brightly so other people can use it as a way to get to God. Excuse me. If you're going to not use it, you don't help anybody, not even yourself. You've done nothing for anybody, not even yourself. So you have to do the mitzvah. The mitzvah comes with treating people properly, without answering people back, without trying to pay back people that you think did you wrong, without trying to twist what other people think to make it all about you. There's so many different things that you have to think about. But once you start thinking in that way, that you want your light to burn brighter, that you want to do the best you can to connect with your Creator, everything starts becoming normal. You go through a process of thinking, and in the beginning you have to think about every step. Yet you think about when you learn how to drive. Somebody hands you the keys to the car and says, go drive the car. We just didn't jump right in like you do today, flip the keys and back it out of the driveway and go somewhere. And when you went somewhere, you didn't even have to think about it. The car kind of got there themselves because everything was on autopilot in your head. Remember the first time you got in the car with the keys? Let's see. Adjust the seat. Adjust the mirrors. put the seatbelt on, put the keys in the ignition. Depending on what year you'll learn to drive, put the left foot on the clutch and push it to the push it in. Today it's make sure the brake is depressed, so when I turn the key, it'll turn when the car is in park. You had to think through each individual step before you even started the car. And once you started the car, then you had to go through, let me check behind me, let me check on the sides, can I back out of the driveway, can I pull out of the parking space? Today you don't think about any of that stuff. You just do, because it's become normal in your life. You trained your body to do these things, so your brain doesn't have to think about each individual little step. This is what we need to do with God. Driving a car has some specific steps you have to take before the car will move. And to get somewhere safely, there's specific things you have to do. This is what we do when we do the 613. This is what we do when we do mitzvot. It's hard in the beginning. Our thoughts aren't proper sometimes in the beginning. We don't do it the right way exactly in the beginning. But as we repeat and do and repeat and do, it becomes regular for us to be able to do that. Have you ever seen a real virtuoso on any kind of musical instrument? I mean, somebody play dual and banjos on a banjo, or the William Tell Overture, or somebody playing some blues on a trumpet. How does their head send each message to their fingers to do these things? How do they sound so beautiful and so great? How do they produce this music flowing out of it? Not because they're thinking about where their fingers have to be or their next breath. Because they've practiced it so many times that their body does it automatically. It's an automatic thing. When your kids, your grandkids are learning to play the piano and they sit down with it, a year later they sit down and you hear a completely different thing that they play. Because things are starting to happen automatically. Your brain doesn't have to think, send the message, oh, what's the next step? Think, send the message. It happens automatically. Your body, your brain is just dueling banjos, check, and your body goes into action, whatever it's going to do, because the body remembers and it wants to do it, because it feels good when it does it. This is the same exact way that we go about the mitzvot. You pick one. You know, what's the first song everybody learns on the piano? I think it's still Mary Had a Little Lamb, I think. Or another instrument, maybe something else. You start with something little. What is this Mary Had a Little Lamb stuff? I want to play some, but you can't play that real good stuff till you get through the simple stuff. You can't jump over. You can't go read read a book on playing any instrument. Read the book through. Say, I know how to do it. Pick it up the instrument and try to play it. Not. Same thing with connection with God. People think because they were taught a certain way to do it, and that, oh man, I'm going to go study because I got to study to show myself approved, and I'm going to study. Now let me connect to God. Oh yeah, I got all this information, so I must be a good guy. The person still doesn't know how to connect to God. It's something that has to be taught. And the notes on a page of music, everyone has a very specific meaning. And if you play it just a teeny bit off, your ears hear it. And you know what? I hear a lot of this off stuff, and a lot of people are saying out there. They learn out of books, and then they decide they're going to tell everybody what they think is right from what they read. You go tell Beethoven how to play his music, right? Go tell God how you want it to be. How's that going to help? It was written in a very specific manner. And you can tell when you listen to somebody playing the music whether they're understanding it or not. Sometimes you listen to somebody play guitar and you realize the guitar's a little off tune and the music doesn't have the when this other guy sang it. Sounds kind of because the one that sounded great is connected to it, doing it the way the notes are written on the page. The other guy just mechanically reading and playing and doing a little bit of stuff. He doesn't realize it. Oh, look, I'm making sound too. Look, I'm playing this song too. And you all know what I'm talking about because you've all heard it in your lives. One singer sing, 2 or 3 singers sing the same song. You say, I like this one better. And some of you say, how is that possible? He's actually got a recording and he listened to him on TV or radio. Everything has to do with what the person puts into it. The same thing has to do with your light that you shine down on this earth with the power of God's essence working in you. You're not shining the light to try to say, look, God, look how bright a light I am. You're shining this light so that others can feel it in them and it can help them. That's why we say we all have to do, we have a job to do. That's fixing the world. And how do we fix the world? Not by going and pointing fingers, not by saying, I'm going to go fix this thing over here, but by saying, I'm going to fix me. Because when you fix you, you produce that oil that makes your light shine brighter. So when you walk by somebody, they feel it in them. They actually feel it. They don't realize it maybe, but you're talking to them. A lot of things happen on this earth that you don't know, you don't see or hear them happening, and they're happening. You know, an elephant, they communicate up to 5 miles away by stamping on the ground and making low rumbling sounds. Sometimes we hear them, sometimes we don't, but they hear them all the time. And so it's going on around us, we're just not aware of it. Dog whistle. Anybody ever had one? Weirdest thing, you blow the whistle, nobody hears it, all of a sudden the dog's ears perk up. We're connecting with the dog, but nobody else can see it. So sometimes you get really connected to God, and in the physical, they can't see it or hear it. But when you're there in your presence, they will feel it inside of them to their godly part. It's also can be connected the same way yours is. That's why people come to meetings. That's why people want to. What people want is to feel this connection. But if you want to feel it, it's not the person that's going to. In other words, it's not me. It's going to make you feel the connection. It's only you. I can only give you the tools to go to work with. Like a carpenter, an apprentice carpenter goes out and buys all his tools. He's got them sitting in front of him. When I learned how to do home electric appliance repair, the first requirement for the class was go out and buy this box of tools. You're looking at these tools. What is all this stuff? Why is it costing me so much money? I got all this stuff here. I have no idea how to use it. By the end of 2 years study, you know what everything is in there. You know its name. You know how to pick it up. You know how to fix something here. You know how to do an air conditioner, a microwave, a TV, a washing machine. They show you how to use what you have already to fix things. Everybody has that same toolbox. They're born with it. But some people decide, I'm going to call this something else. And you know what? I know it's, this other guy says to me, this is better to connect this way than to connect that way with the main source. And we go all over the place without realizing we're already connected to the main source. Without realizing, all we have to do is say, let's see, what do you want me to do? Tzedakah, kindness, acts of kindness. Okay. You go do an act of kindness. That already starts producing oil that starts your fire, the flame. The flame that connects to the essence of God. It actually draws like this. How does it draw like this? The connection of God, the essence of God, is a fiery flame. Is the only way we can. It's so powerful. It's so strong. And when you start even a little tiny little fire, next time you're at a bonfire or the next time you're going to light a candle, don't put the fire exactly on the wick of the candle. Put it like this, and you'll see it jumps from one to the other. And if you have a bigger fire here, you bring a small fire close to it. What does a small fire want to do? It wants to join the big fire. The small light wants to join the big light. It's a law of nature. If you could jump off the candle you were holding and dive into the rest of it, it would do it in a heartbeat. Believe me, that's what your godly soul wants from you. It wants to jump right in with all the brighter lights. You can restrict it. You can keep a cap on it. You can not like the feeling it gives you because you're getting too close to God, whatever it is. Or you can let it move together and let the power of God, the essence, the Shekinah, come closer to that little light you've just lit up so that you actually become one in speech, mind, thought, and deed. Where you won't want to do something that God doesn't want you to do. The do not, so wait a minute, God said don't do this. Why am I messing with it? You know, just to bring us down to a close, the Bible gives us a whole lot of do not do's. Don't go to people that foresee the future. Don't look for signs and omens among the stars. Don't talk to the dead. Don't suffer a witch to be among you. What do you think is a fairy tale? Why would God waste his breath on telling us not to get involved with those things if they didn't exist? If they didn't exist and they had no power at all, he wouldn't tell us don't do it. Why do we tell kids don't play with fire? Because it burns. These things that God says don't mess with are things that have to exist to complete the existence of all things. Everything has its place, but God says don't mess with it. You're going in the wrong direction if you start playing with that stuff. You're playing with the wrong side. We call it sitra achra, the other side. The other side, and we also have the sitra kedusha, which is the side of holiness. And then we have the other side. Which side do you want to be on? Where do you think God's essence wants you to be? Where God wants you to be? Not on the other side opposite him and away from him, but in the side of holiness. Now, holiness doesn't mean going around being a pious person and being a monk or something like that. Who's called righteous? The first person called righteous? Noah. He was righteous in his generation. Was he a monk? Did he do all the 613? How righteous was this guy? What made him righteous? He did what God told him to do at the time. God says, okay, you're righteous because you're doing, nobody else is listening to me, but you are. Righteousness doesn't mean some highfalutin, that guy over there, he's some holy man or something. Righteousness is simply doing what God asks. That's all it is. The more you do, in God's eyes, the more righteous you are, and it doesn't make a darn bit of difference what people think. But when your fire starts to burn in such a way that you're affecting everyone around you, then they'll start looking at you with different eyes. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we want our closeness to be with Hashem. We want Hashem, God, to know, here I am, God, and I know that I'm one with you, and I know that I have to do these things you've told me to do and not do. Now, people that aren't born Jewish, it's a little bit easier, believe it or not, than for those of us that are born Jewish. God has given us a total of 613, which nobody on this earth can do. I've talked about this before. Everybody has what they're supposed to do. And as a group of Jews, somebody has to be covering every one of the 613. Unless God specifically suspends something, which is like the work in the Holy Temple, because we don't have one right now. So how can you do what God asks you to do in the Holy Temple if you don't have one? But it's replaced with something. It's replaced with a 3 times a day prayer, saying Shema twice a day. It's all that. Like, it's no big deal. I mean, you can learn about it, but the thing is, that's what he gave us to do. That's our part of Torah. Then the rest of the Torah is for another 99.8% of the world, which is a huge chunk of the world. We're just this little old Pitsky group here. Your job in Torah is to take care of the world. God created Adam, put him in the Garden of Eden, and says, take care of the garden. What is he talking about? Take care of the world. Tend it, garden it, make it fruitful, grow crops, build cities, build dams, make electricity, do all this stuff. That's the rest of the world's part in Torah. But at the same time, he wants that person to be a righteous person. How do you be a righteous person? There are mitzvot that are intended for everybody, not just the Jewish people, that clearly give us more oil for our light to burn, not by preaching or doing all this other stuff, by living like what God says is, this is the way I created Adam, this is the way I want you to live, take care of the world. What is that? Whoa, that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. Take care of the world has to do with making sure everybody's fed, making sure everybody's treated with kindness. It has to do with making sure that there's enough energy for everybody to use. It has to do with interpersonal relationships. It's a huge responsibility. Why do we have war? Why do we have famine? Why do we have diseases? Diseases running rampant in the city of Los Angeles today because nobody's caring. The Los Angeles police department is getting sick from diseases spread by the homeless people. There's so many of them there. Who's taking care of it? That's our job. That's the 99.8% of the world's job. Take care of the world. Take care of the people in the world. The 0.2%, they're going to show you what it is I want from you. Now you guys go do it. Here's your equipment. Here's your toolbox. Go use it. Up until now, this hasn't been possible because of the way the world has run and the way the world has worked. Today, you have teachers, Jewish teachers, that are willing to step forward and say, I'm not afraid that somebody's going to come knock on my door while I'm teaching or throw a Molotov cocktail in my house. Or if I walk down the street, I'm going to get beat up like it's happening in some countries around the world. I can get here in Sfat Israel, and I can get on the internet, and I can help people learn how to have a closer connection with God. Not be religious, not do all kinds of, I don't know what you want to call them, you can classify it yourself, but just how to be a human being. Because that's what God has created us all for, to be human beings that he created, the way he created Adam. And everything we've been through up until this point right now since creation, 5,779 years since creation, we've been in school. Humanity's been in school. Sometimes a new bully comes around, then he goes, and another bully comes around. Sometimes somebody says, well, what I think is right, and we're all going to do what I think. Haven't we learned enough that that's all a bunch of BS coming from the animal side of us? Isn't it time we got together and worked together to do what God has asked us to do? He not even ask us. He's told us, this is the way you're going to connect with me. This is the way you're going to do things. This is the way we're going to enter into the age of the Messiah. People are sitting back, oh man, when the Messiah comes, everything's going to be okay. When the Messiah comes, everything's going to be okay. When the Messiah comes, everything's going to be okay. That's nice. How are we going to get him to come? We're supposed to be preparing the world for his arrival so he can give us the final touches on everything. You guys were right. We're going to cover now, we're going to make sure that everybody knows who God is, our creator, and we're all going to start working in that direction. The Messiah's going to show up and he's going to look and see there. Some of us are working with him already and he hasn't arrived. And other people are going to need a little bit of direction because when he arrives, we'll feel it. That flame, his flame will be felt across the world. But it's here now in each one of us. We've entered the Messianic era. Now you and I have to go to work to help so that when he comes, the world will be more ready for that. Now, they don't have to believe the same way we believe, but they do have to do what God outlines in Torah, and they have to do it for a very particular reason. When you do that mitzvah, when you do that good deed, when you do that act of kindness, or when you don't look at something you're not supposed to look at, or don't do something you're not supposed to do, the reason you're doing it or not doing it is very important. You're doing it or not doing it because you know that the Creator gave this set of rules to Moses at Mount Sinai for the whole world. God revealed to every human being at that point in time what he wants. And over the years, 3 millennia, I guess 1,000 years is a millennia, right? Over 3 years or 3.3 millennia, those who were designated the ones that are supposed to research and learn about God and who he is truly, we still don't know. But we're pretty darn close, and we know what he wants us to do. And it isn't to interpret to our own convenience what he wants from us. It's to listen to him and then put it in some way that other people are going to understand it. You know, Terry goes to work every day and he does a job, and he understands it. And somebody can see him doing their job and say, wow, how does he do this? It's so complicated. And all this stuff he's got to track and all these things that have to be done. He's got all these people helping him out. And you look at it and you're in wonder. And you've all been in places like that. It's like, bzzz, and at the end, there's something accomplished. And from the chaos, how does something get accomplished? Because everything is orchestrated. God has written a symphony. Everything is orchestrated. Every one of us has our seat in the orchestra. Every one of us has our instrument to play, our thing to do. When we all sit down and do it together, it makes a beautiful, beautiful sound. To finish off, I want to do just one quick story. I don't think I've told this here yet. If I have, Terry, stop me. About the conductor in Europe that had put together this beautiful concert. And the day of the concert, he got sick and he couldn't go in to conduct the orchestra. It's this huge night, sold out tickets and everything. So he called up his second in command and says, you go lead the concert tonight. And you be the conductor. And do it exactly the way I taught you how to do it. And so one of the reporters at one of the newspapers found out about it. So he decided he's going to go and sit with the guy that was supposed to be there and listen to the concert with him and get his opinion of what was going on. So he knocks on the door and he comes in and the conductor says, I don't want you here tonight. I don't feel good. Look how bad I'm doing. I couldn't go. The reporter says, I'm not going to say a word to you. I just want to look at you while you're listening to the music that's coming across the radio. And now you know how long ago that was when it was just radio. And the guy says, okay, come in. And he asks his wife to bring some tea for them. And they both sit and listen to this beautiful concert. At the end of it, the reporter says, wow, what powerful music. You did a beautiful arrangement of this. And the conductor picks up his teacup and throws it against the wall and says, ah, it was terrible. And the guy looks at him, what do you mean it was terrible? I was entranced the whole time. He says, it wasn't right. The guy says, what do you mean it wasn't right? It sounded beautiful. Everything, there was no gaps in the music. You didn't hear anything off key. Everything was going beautiful. And the guy says, it wasn't complete. And the reporter says, what do you mean it wasn't complete? He said, yeah. In the violin section. In the second row and the third chair was empty. That violin wasn't there. He says, how do you know that? It sounded beautiful. Nobody would have noticed. The conductor says, you go make a phone call and see if I can tell you it's true. The guy calls the auditorium. He talks to the conductor's assistant and says, you know what? Was anybody missing from the orchestra tonight? And the assistant conductor said, yeah, actually, in the second row in the third seat, the woman that plays here didn't show up. And the reporter was astounded. Astounded. He went back to the conductor and said, how do you know? How could you be so specific? How did you know that that one spot in that one seat, the person wasn't there, so the picture wasn't complete? Everything you wanted to get done wasn't complete. And he said, are you kidding? I'm the guy that arranged the thing. I can hear anything that is out of sorts with what's going on. And this is how God is. He's created each one of us to do the work we have to do in this world. And no matter how good the world works, how good it sounds, if you're not in your seat doing your job, to God it's incomplete. Don't you want to help complete things and get them right? Then get hooked up to the essence. If you need help and guidance, that's what teachers are for. That's why there's a conductor there to tell you, okay, you sit in this seat, you sit in this seat, and let's work together. Not for somebody to walk into the orchestra pit and look around and say, I'm going to go sit over there. I like that chair over there, so I'm going to sit over there. And he doesn't care if he's among the trumpets or the oboes. That's where he's going to play his violin. What kind of help is a person like that? Each one of us has to allow ourselves to submit to what God wants and not what we want. Each one of us to be the strongest, best person we can be has to do it with guidance from God and maybe some guidance from a teacher that knows what they're talking about. Thank you for being with us. Any questions, anybody?
That's just kind of, for almost 7 years, I wanted to be a Jew. And there's aspects of that I still want to. But there came a point where God was, when I took on the 7 laws, it was like I discovered what God was wanting me to do, not what I was wanting.
There you go.
And they have come alive to me in ways that I can't even explain. I have insights that I never had before about the 7 laws. And it's because I'm sitting in the seat where the conductor wanted me to sit.
Exactly.
That was an amazing, story that you told. I personally can relate.
I'm hoping everybody listening and everybody that sees this video will relate to that. That's the job. Because once you get that connection, it feels so good. Anybody else want to chip anything? Terry, you got something else you want to talk about? Say.
Anybody else want to chime in? You can use the chat or you can use voice, either way. Okay,
let me just say, anybody who wants to get a hold of me personally, or Terry personally, we both have Facebook pages. We'll help you in any way we can. Starting after Shabbat, I'm going to be out of the picture for a little while, maybe a week. Designed to go some surgery, but nothing stops. God's world goes forward. Everything keeps going forward. So there's always ways to make contact. I have my phone with me, and I'm thinking of taking a laptop with me, so that if I'm still in the hospital at this time next week, that I'll just find some place in the hospital, hook up to the wireless, and we can still have our program. But I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay.
But I'm looking forward to. The operation is not that complicated, but they warn me. They generally tell you stay in for 4 or 5 days just to make sure there's no internal bleeding and stuff like that. And the quicker God heals me, the quicker I'm out of the hospital. Done deal.
Amen.
So it's just a part of my body. It's not working properly. It has to be removed. The body works fine without it. So it's no, every day when we read the Torah, at the end of the Torah reading, thank you, Veronica. At the end of the Torah reading, you get the rabbi names of people that you want for healing. And he reads the names and he blesses the people and asks for healing. And I can't even put my name in there because I'm not sick. I have a part of my body that's not working right. Just got to come out, but I'm not sick. I don't have disease. I don't have anything. God forbid I should have any of that, but I don't. So I'm not sick. There's a difference between being sick and having a body part that needs fixing some way. Today, a friend of mine went in America for some kind of operation on his kidney. And he has a growth, and they're afraid that he is sick. You all know what that means, right? So they're doing part to biopsy it and everything. But if his kidneys weren't working properly and he just needed fixing, that's not being sick. I know it's a weird definition, but that's the way it is, and we get from Torah. Guys, I really appreciate you being with us, and wow. I learned something tonight too. How do you like that? Every time I do a teaching, I learn something. And I love being with you guys. And I hope that we can grow the room and grow more people getting together with this. I know there's a lot of people out there doing this, but everybody has to find a place where they can understand the best and know the best and feel comfortable. And I think that Terry and I have something really, really unique to offer everybody. And it's a perfect example, as far as I'm concerned, how Hashem wants the 99.8% of the world to work with the 0.2% of the world. And that's what Terry and I are doing, and trying to be an example to everybody how it can get done. Terry, I really appreciate the relationship we have together.
Thank you, sir. Here.
I call it Ashkaha Pratit, divine providence. And all of you sitting here aren't sitting here by accident. You just didn't all of a sudden decide. If you weren't supposed to be here listening to this tonight, you wouldn't be, but God wanted you here listening. It's called Ashkaha Pratit. It's called divine providence, and that's what it is. And if you're here, you're supposed to be here. If you're not here, maybe you weren't supposed to be here tonight.
Amen.
Isn't divine providence part of this week's Parsha?
Of course. Absolutely it is.
I seem to have been working on that the last couple of days in my readings.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, we're almost up to the point now where we actually go get a little bit of purification so we can stand in front of God and receive his 10 sayings. His 10 utterances is the way it actually translates from Hebrew to English. Because if you read, even if you read them, the first one is in no way, shape, or form a commandment. It's a declaration of who he is. So how can we say they're all 10 commandments? There aren't. But they're 10 things that God said in public to everybody. Some of them are commandments, some are not. And we'll get to it at a later date, but the fit number 5, honor your mother and your father, is the one that is, to me, I think one of the most important ones, because it shows you it's the connection between God and man. And we learn from it. But that's just a little teaser. We'll learn about it one day. Anybody have any questions, email me. If you need some help with something, I can point you in a direction you can study, or we can answer some questions for you. Thank you so much for being with us. And Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God, we'll all be together next week, same time.
Amen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.